It is Tuesday night in East Lansing, Michigan. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Welcome. I meant to say welcome. Once again, SpartanMag Live getting it going on July 13th, 14th, something like that. Just a few weeks away from Big Ten Media Days, about 2 weeks away from that. 2 or 3 weeks away from Michigan State football practice beginning. And I don't know, 50, 60 days away from Michigan State kicking it off for the 2021 football season. 12 full games of college football for your entertainment. I told you 2021 was going to be okay. I told you it was going to be okay. And we're getting there. And we're friendlier this year, aren't we? Aren't we all friendlier this year? Gather around, bring your refreshments. Tell us what you're partaking in on a Tuesday night. Hope everybody's great and having a great summer. I spent a little time up north last week, took a couple steps away from SpartanMag.com. Appreciate Jason Killip, Noah Sprunger, Kenny Jordan, the work they did while I was away. Conan Dyke, he's back. We haven't seen him yet, but he's lurking around the state of Michigan. He's back. He's ready to get after it, too, real soon. Couldn't do it without all you maggers out there supporting us. We certainly appreciate that. My name, once again, SpartanMag.com publisher, Jim Comparoni. Been doing this nonsense since the early 1990s, going all the way back to the advent of the actual internet and the World Wide Web. Bringing it to you from East Lansing, Michigan, all the time, every day, almost every day, with the exception being when we're on vacation or tending to family matters, as I do quite a bit as a pretend baseball coach. Not a pretend baseball coach. We do our best. We have some good kids to coach at various age groups, having a lot of fun with that. But I tell you what, closing in on football season, and the way we do this, we take questions at SpartanMag.com. SpartanMag.com is the Michigan State site for Rivals.com. It is the church of what's happening now. It is the daily narrative. It's the number one trusted source of Michigan State sports on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis anywhere on the World Wide Web. Hey, there's a lot of great sports writers out there for the newspapers, too. It's like a different category. We're more like minute by minute with our message boards and everything, and there's some good writers that cover Michigan State at on various platforms. We're doing it our way. SpartanMag.com, Rivals.com, been doing it for a long time. Over at the Underground Bunker message board. The Underground Bunker message board is the premium message board at SpartanMag.com. It is the church of what's happening now. It is the daily narrative on Michigan State sports. And over there at the Underground Bunker message board, I invite SpartanMag.com subscribers to offer questions in mailbag form. I did that earlier today around 2 p.m. Eastern, and we are doing this at about 9 o'clock Eastern. Those of you staying up late, we appreciate that. Is 9 o'clock late on a Tuesday night? Probably is, so we better get to it. Anyway, got about 13, 14 questions. Going to be entertaining those as long as my voice holds up. In the meantime, go ahead and post questions in the chat area. We will get to those also. Question number one from Go Sparty out of Parts Unknown. People, if you're going to post a question for Spartan Mag Live, I need to know where you're from. You can lie if you want to. I prefer that you don't. But go ahead and let us know where you're from. Go Sparty did not, so therefore he's from Parts Unknown. And you can picture him with a pro wrestling mask over his face, and we appreciate his question. He says, I asked this on another thread, he says, but have you ever thought about ranking all of Michigan State's commitments yourself and posting it here on the message board? It could be a simple rundown of our commitments with 3 to 5 stars next to their name. You know, occasionally, my answer is occasionally I will mention if I think someone is a 4-star talent. I did that with Ade Willy, who committed a few days ago. Usually, you know, I told you, was it, who was it that was a 4-star recruit, and I thought that he was a 3-star recruit? I will do that also. It was a defensive end. Well, it was someone recent. I should have, that just occurred to me. I should have looked that one up. Anyway, in terms of ranking people, you know, maybe top 10, I might do that. Something we do frequently going into a season is try to handicap which incoming freshmen are more likely to get into the playing group. And that's a difficult undertaking. I mean, that takes into consideration what Michigan State's areas of need are. For instance, a couple of years ago, I thought that Tommy Guajardo out of Dearborn, the tight end. I thought he had a good chance to get on the field. I thought he showed good quickness on his film, but he was small. I mean, he had a lot of heart, came in, hit the weight room as hard as he could, did everything he could on the practice field. Then new coaches came in, and he just didn't meet their size requirements. But that was a guy that I thought had a chance to get on the field solely because Michigan State needed tight ends to help. As it turned out, Tyler Hunt, out of nowhere from the punting position, came in and helped, as did some others. But yeah, that's something we could do with the recruiting class. I'm not sure when the right time of the year for that is. Maybe right after the February signing period when everything is done. So maybe I'll scribble some things together. In the meantime, we've seen a handful of those recruits in the spring scrimmage, so that kind of tilts things a little bit also. So I would imagine sometime in February after late signing day and before spring practice, that would be the time to go with a ranking like that. So we're in July, probably not going to happen anytime soon, but once in a while you will hear me say when I think somebody is a 4-star talent, regardless of where they're ranked by the various outlets. An example of that, remember Gabe Neely? Gabe Neely, he was a corner from Florida, was committed to Michigan State for a short time last year. Ended up at South Florida, I believe. With his ability to hit, I thought he ran pretty well. He was a tall, rangy guy. I thought he looked like a 4-star type of guy. I know he's rail thin, and that looks odd at a certain age. And maybe he'll go to South Florida and get off track and never amount to anything. I don't know. But I thought that he was a 4-star. And also, who was the defensive back from Louisiana last year? I thought he was in the same category. I'll let you know if I think someone's a 4-star. And I don't say everybody's a 4-star. For those of you that are interested in stars. Question number 2, Hayden V8 from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He says he's asking for any notes, tidbits, or whispers about Michigan State players showing out, as he says, in summer workouts. Well, I heard, look, it looks like the bell cow is tardy. Old Tuck just checked in. Old Tuck will not make the starting 5, but I was tardy too. I don't feel tardy. It's an old Van Halen reference. Some of you caught that. We had trouble with audio as usual. It wouldn't be SpartanMag Live without the audio problems, right? My bad. That thumbs up, I think that was from you, Old Tuck. Appreciate that. While you're in Austin, Texas, Old Tuck, remember to keep Austin weird. We appreciate you and all your support. All right, players that are looking good in the summer. I heard that Kenneth Walker was looking good prior to the spring. I heard he's looking good now. There's been some pictures of him, and he does not look like your average ordinary running back, does he? He's looking forward to hitting the hole quicker and faster, harder, more so than they were allowed to do in the scheme at Wake Forest, which was an effective scheme, but he wants to hit it downhill like in more of a pro style, and he's getting his body ready. I heard that they really liked him. He looked pretty good in the spring. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Ronald Williams, the corner transfer from Alabama, was looking good also. Actually, it was Joyner, Harold Joyner. Scratch that. I didn't necessarily hear that about Ronald Williams. It was Harold Joyner, the running back transfer from Auburn. Heard that his initial outlook when he arrived at Michigan State and the work he was doing in the weight room, conditioning-wise, was really impressing the strength coaches. Other guys, been hearing good things about Jarrett Horst, Michael Dowell, who's been messing around at the nickel position. He's getting stronger. Need something out of him. Been hearing good things about Ben Van Sumeren, the linebacker transfer from Michigan. Big, thick guy. Someone that can help in the red zone and short yardage. Can he help between the 20-yard lines? Dropping into coverage. And he's a big physical dude with big thighs. Is he nimble enough to defend RPOs and so forth? At Michigan, he would come in as part of a 3-4 defense. I'm hearing he's doing well, though. Crouch, the transfer from Tennessee, looking good. Kenneth Walker looking good. I'm hearing Connor Hayward is looking good, and we always seem to hear that in the offseason with him. Then he gets a good role early in the year, and then it just kind of tapers off. He does what he can. I saw him at Michigan State football camp a couple of weeks ago. He was out there as a counselor type, and they don't ask just anybody to do that. you need to have been impressing people to get that type of gig. He was out there. Eli Collins, I'm hearing he continues to do well. Kevin Jarvis, hearing he's doing well, which they need, right? Need that from him. I hear J.D. Duplain is doing well. Duplain. If Prez was here, he would make a Fantasy Island reference. Prez always brings in those references from the late 1970s, usually involving characters from Looney Tunes. But anyway, Duplain looking good. We did not see him in the spring scrimmage, but he's working over there at left guard doing his thing. And at defensive end, Drew Beasley continued to improve and put in time. I wouldn't be surprised if Beasley becomes a captain. Just a guy that keeps answering the bell. I'm hearing Drew Jordan, the defensive end transfer from Duke, has done well with off-season workouts and so forth. So that's what I'm hearing. I've not seen it with my own eyes. Also got a question from Jordy from Parts Unknown, and he asks for any new updates or tidbits on how the new transfers and freshmen are living up to expectations. Any insights on who might push for playing time this year? Well, for the freshmen, I'm not hearing anything about some of those guys per se, but as far as the transfers go, Drew Jordan is an interesting one, but, Q Crouch out of Tennessee, I got to believe he's going to be pushing for playing time. Starting job, linebacker. Noah Harvey's pretty good. Chase Klein's done some things, but Crouch is coming in as a forceful weapon. He's done it at Tennessee. 4-star talent. I imagine he's going to be right in there. That's going to be competitive, and that'll be good for them. Horst, battling for playing time. You saw him start at left tackle in the scrimmage with A.J.R. Curry out with a minor ailment. Drew Jordan, pushing for playing time. I don't know. I will have to see it to believe it. We did not see him in the spring game, did we? Maybe a play or two. Hey, he looks good in the locker room, airport guy. But, I've mentioned this before. I should probably go back and watch more Duke games. But I watched the Duke North Carolina game, went back and watched it, and he struggled against double team blocking at the point of attack. I'm just going to say it like he is. He got moved off the line of scrimmage 2 yards. In the Big Ten, that's not so good. He's got the frame. He should be able to handle that. So maybe it was just a one-game deal. Sometimes if you catch guys in the wrong game, if they've got a little tweak or an injury or something, that can be a problem. And I've mentioned that a number of times. I need to go back and expand my frame of reference on that and watch him in other games to see if it was a problem in different parts of the season. But I'm just going off that one game that I saw. Macklin JB from Rochester, Michigan says, Jim, you mentioned Ade Willy would be a 4-star recruit, top 5 player in the state of Michigan if he played in Michigan. And yes, I think that. He's the corner originally from Colorado. He's at Bradenton IMG Academy now. Had an article about him at SpartanMag.com a couple of days ago. Was really impressed when I went back over his film. Talked to the defensive coordinator at IMG Academy, Chris Dishman. He looks like a Harlan Barnett type of guy. And I think Michigan State snuck him out of there. I don't know if Harlan got some inside info from his buddy Chris Dishman or not. But, I don't know how you can be a little bit of a dark horse at IMG. Everybody's looking at IMG. If you're starting at IMG, I don't know how you can be a dark horse. Well, he is, and Michigan State got him. Katin Houser was a dark horse. Quarterback, St. John Bosco. Again, they might be the 2 best high school teams in the country. Michigan State got a quarterback. He's a split-time quarterback with a 2023 4-star guy. And Ade Willy starting with a defensive backfield, the entire defensive backfield Division I players. So there's not many secrets at those 2 schools, especially at quarterback. But Michigan State got in early with both those guys and got both of those guys. That's resourceful, that's hustle, that's pragmatic. I would imagine good evaluation too, because they were in on Houser at a point when he was still an unknown. Because you got to remember, California high school football this year was played in the spring, March and April. So there was no film on Houser until March or April. And the film that was out there, he was split in time. So if you're looking at it, you'd have to really be on the stick to catch wind of him in March and April like Michigan State did and begin a relationship with him that eventually resulted in a scholarship offer after he committed to Boise State. So that part of it reminds me of Kirk Cousins a little bit. Kirk Cousins was injured as a junior. Not many people knew about him. He did well in the summer at some of these regional camps in the state of Michigan, and then had a nice senior year and coaching change at Michigan State. Dan Enos told Mark D'Antonio, hey, this guy looked real good at camp. He was about ready to commit to Western Michigan. Colorado was also interested. They made him part of the recruiting class and got him. That was Kirk Cousins. He was because he was injured as a junior, he was a secret. Katin Houser, injured as a sophomore, and then his junior season was delayed in only 6 games, and they played in the spring. That part of it reminds me of the Kirk Cousins thing a little bit. Anyway, the question is, how many other commitments for this class of Michigan States do you think would be a 4-star player if they played in the state of Michigan? That's a good question. He mentions, I would have to think Jack Nickel, Katin Houser, Gavin Brocious would be, and maybe Miller. I can't remember if he said that or if those are my notes right there. I don't know. I'd like to have somebody here holding cue cards for me, but, our budget is thin. Anyway, Nickel, I started looking at his film again today. Tight end commitment from a few days ago out of Georgia. Program that won a state title when he was a sophomore. 6'4", 230. Man, I like Nickel. I like all these guys. I had to go back and look at some MAC tight end recruits just to get my bearings back. Now, Nickel had been committed to Notre Dame. Notre Dame liked him, but then Notre Dame made it clear to him that they were going to continue to recruit tight ends. They got a kid out of Georgia and a kid out of Iowa that were 4-star recruits. They never told Nickel he was gone. They said they'd like to still have him, and that's my understanding. Would they have actually signed 3 tight ends? Maybe they knew Nickel would move on. So Nickel decommitted. Michigan State got in on him. I mean, he was offered by Florida State, LSU, Iowa, Nebraska, a lot of schools. A high 4-star. He's about as high high 3-star. He's about as high of a 3-star as you can be without being a 4-star. Now look at that guy, Nickel, at 6'4". That 6'4" frame, that's what we're seeing from Michigan State now. They also had a commitment from the Arizona kid, Michael Masunas, who's a 6'5" guy. These are legit Big Ten tight end frames. And when I look at Nickel at 6'4", 230, the way, he accelerates quickly off the line of scrimmage. He's got some of that quick twinkle toes agility. You see this, there's a pop pass in the end zone, in the back of the end zone, where he extends his arm, high points it, shows some catch radius on that. Does a good job with his routes. On a curl route, for a big dude, he doesn't have to, take all day to stop and run a curl. He can, decelerate and come back quickly with that twinkle toes quickness, right? Finds grass on the over route. Look, you know what he looks like? He looks like one of those good Michigan tight ends we've seen over the years. And Michigan State tight ends have not looked like good Michigan Wolverine tight ends over the years. If you look at some of the recent guys, when you look at tight end recruiting for Michigan State, the last one that Mark D'Antonio signed was Tommy Guajardo at 6'3", 225. Good guy, good hard worker. Did what he could. Didn't meet the frame requirements of the new staff. Nothing against him. He transferred where, to Bowling Green or Central? I wish him nothing but the best. I like that kid. He's got some quickness. But at 6'3", 225, hit the weight room hard, but was kind of narrow. Was only going to be yay big, And that's the one guy they got in 2020. 2019, Michigan State didn't sign a tight end. 2018, they signed Trenton Gillison. He was a 4-star, 6'4", 240. He's shown flashes of ability here and there. Had a big play in the Pinstripe Bowl a couple years ago. Last year was injured, missed about half the year, did some things here and there. He's got that 6'4" frame, so he's still in the program. Could he have a breakthrough this year? Possibly. Matt Dotson was a recruit the year before. He was a 4-star guy out of Cincinnati Moeller. He could have come back this year, but had recurring injuries and ended up having to retire. Tyler Hunt, as a punter, hits the weight room, becomes an impact tight end. Well, a functional tight end last year. They were glad to have him. Parks Gissinger, defensive end recruit. Hadn't seen him at all. Did not get on the field last year. And then, boom, he's in the spring scrimmage and doing some things. He got on the field a little bit in the Pinstripe Bowl a year and a half ago. All right, so he's in the spring scrimmage doing some things functional. A little bit stiff. He's not going to threaten anybody downfield with a reception. But a guy that they're keeping in the program for now, right? Jack Camper, Michigan State recruited as a tight end. Jim Bowman from the previous staff scouted him out of Virginia Beach, liked him as a sophomore tight end, transferred to IMG in Florida, became a defensive end there, did not start a defensive end, I don't think, for IMG. Michigan State recruited him as a tight end, brought him in. So, I mean, these guys are like projects. You know, they liked him as a sophomore tight end, but he's coming in as a defensive end. And Jack Camper, you know, initially D'Antonio liked some things about his frame and the way he moved, but in terms of being a tight end, running routes and being fluid and catching the ball, he was a project. Matt Dotson, for a 4-star recruit, had good feet, was slippery downfield, had some athleticism, had a nice frame at about 6'5", but you watched him at Cincinnati Moeller and he was a split end all the time. I don't think I ever saw him attached to the offensive line as a traditional tight end. So he needed to beef up, come in, attached to the offensive line to become a traditional type of tight end that they wanted in the previous staff and the current staff. And that part was a project. Even though he was a 4-star recruit, the blocking piece of it, adding that size and strength, that was a project. And then there was Matt Sokol, that was a quarterback in the Detroit area, suburban Detroit. You know, looked pretty good in some of the T-shirt camps. But when he came to Michigan State, in terms of catching the ball consistently, that was a little iffy. You know, putting on the weight to become a blocker, got a little bit better as he went. But that was, again, project. Dotson was a project. Guajardo was a project because he was smallish. Gillison, athlete, but, you know, needs to add some, you know, still trying to add the blocking piece and the physicality. Project, right? Jack Camper, project. Jack Nickel, not a project. That was a long, circuitous route back to my point. Jack Nickel, 6'4", 230, frame, moves, runs routes. I mean, he runs a nice little crisp out route at 12 yards. Catch, got the hands, catch radius. Can accelerate pretty good for a big man after the catch. There's a play in his huddle film where they run this little middle screen to him. And he catches it and gets up to speed pretty good. And that's in Georgia for one of the best teams. And he's going against Marietta. He's going against McEachern. He's going against good teams. Then as a blocker, he'll come in attached to the offensive line and, you know, bend his knees and get low and pop his hips and strike you. I mean, he has to do it at the college level, of course. But you don't have to, like, daydream about what he looks like as a blocker like you did with Dotson. And who was the other? There was a good guy. There was a guy that was a good blocker that Michigan State got a commitment from 2 or 3 years ago that ended up transferring. He's one of the early guys into the portal from Bowling Green. He was a good blocker, but the hands piece as a receiver project. Someone can remind me who that was. Jack Nickel, not a project in these areas. Oh, Noah Davis is who it was. Noah Davis. So Nickel looks like one of those Michigan tight ends. I mean that as a compliment. Hands are not a project like they were with Camper and Noah Davis and Sokol. Blocking will not be a project like it was for Matt Dotson. I like his film better than Matt Dotson's. Liked Matt Dotson a lot as a kid. He's got that he had that athleticism and he gave it his all at Michigan State and went down with those injuries and he did the best he could. He was what he was. But I'm saying in terms of a tight end prospect, I look at Matt Dotson as a 4-star recruit at Moeller, and we all love Moeller. Moeller's a great program. But I look at Nickel. I like Nickel's junior film better than Dotson's senior film. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying he's all everything. I'm saying he looks like a big 6'4", square-bodied tight end with dual functionality. And haven't seen that a lot at Michigan State. Offer from Iowa, LSU, Kentucky, Miami, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Oregon, Penn State, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin. Official visits to California, West Virginia, Michigan State. I'm not sure which of those schools were on him full blast from start to finish, but I can see what those schools saw. And that's what makes him a high 3-star. Would he be a 4-star in the state of Michigan? Yes, he would. I think he would. I'm thinking about who have been the good tight ends coming out of the state of Michigan in recent years. Have there been any? Tommy Guajardo was the highest ranked tight end when he came out. He was ranked, I don't know, number 20 or 25 in the state of Michigan. So if you had someone like Nickel and he had a Notre Dame offer or Notre Dame commitment, if he was playing at Brother Rice or something, yeah, you bet he'd be a 4-star. And that doesn't mean That just means he would stick out more as a talent in the state of Michigan because there's not as much talent in the state of Michigan as there is in Georgia. I don't mean that negatively against the people that do the rankings in the state of Michigan. I'm just saying that he would stand out more, as I think Houser would. And there's some people that are 4-stars in the state of Michigan that would not be 4-stars in other states. So the question was, which other out-of-state guys would be 4-stars in the state of Michigan? I think Ade Willy would be right there. I think that I compared him to Miles Rouser the other day. They're both safety-type guys. And I like Rouser, and I think Rouser could possibly be a nickel linebacker type of guy. He's committed to Arkansas, something like that, from Belleville. He's got good change of direction. He's got some physicality. Rouser does. Michigan State recruited him. Right now, Rivals.com has Miles Rouser, number 2 player in the state of Michigan. I think Ade Willy's right there. Ade Willy has the ability to play corner, which is something that Rouser doesn't have. I think Willy is primarily a corner recruit at Michigan State. Could go inside maybe, could go to safety maybe, but they got some other big safeties they're going after. Yeah, I think Willy'd be right there. Right there with those DBs that are 4-star recruits in the state of Michigan right now. Katin Houser. I'll be interested to see if Houser becomes a 4-star. He did real well at the Elite 11 for what that's worth. I never put a lot of stock into that, but that does measure arm talent, accuracy, arm strength, quickness of your release, things like that. He has all of those. The things that I liked about him, in addition to that, was some of the mobility, but also his ability to process things mentally quickly. And over there at St. John Bosco Prep, they do sophisticated things on offense. That's why they're preseason, I think, number 3 in the state, or number 3 in the country by Max Preps, for what it's worth, going into the 2021 fall. And they do sophisticated things on offense. And they're going against, they play a national schedule, and they're playing against sophisticated defenses. And he's making reads right now, and boom, going right to things as he's executing RPO decisions. So that's what I like about Houser, among other things. So, and then you throw in the Elite 11 arm talent. I mean, we've seen guys go to the Elite 11, the T-shirt Olympics, and do great things, throwing darts and throwing axes and playing cornhole or whatever it is they do at the Elite 11 with the French figure skating judges. I don't know how that all shakes out or whatever. The one year that Ryan Mallett won Mr. Congeniality at that thing was the year that I took all the stuff from that, and I just kind of went, okay, whatever. I mean, I'd like to see it, but Ryan Mallett was not Mr. Congeniality there. I know some people that were at Elite 11 that year, and they were saying he was the one dude that was, I was going to say a bad word. Not going to do it. Anyway, we've seen guys do really well at Elite 11 and then play in college, and they're unable to read a defense, or they're unable to throw accurately. Milton. Did I cough there? Sorry. There have been others. I think he was one that was there. Might get that wrong, I'm assuming. I don't know. Was that a cough or was that? Anyway, so, but that's something that you cannot simulate at a T-shirt camp, is reading coverages while somebody's trying to take your head off. So, Houser, with how well he did at the Elite 11, could he get 4-star status from Rivals.com? I don't know how they do things. I would think so. That would help Michigan State's recruiting rankings for those of you that are interested in those type of things. Time to move on. Hey, I'm going to let people know that we're doing this, so I'm going to take a little pause. I did not have this ready earlier. Usually I've got a tweet ready, and I send it out there. But we'll be talking a little bit of basketball here in a moment. And we'll talk a little bit more about positional. I don't know if breakdowns is the right word, but positional. Time to move on. Positional. Hey, I'm going to let people know that we're doing this, so I'm going to take a little pause. Positional. I did not have this positional. I had a little feedback there. I had 2 screens up here. I don't know if that bothered you guys or not. Positional projections for the fall. That's what I was trying to get to. All right, I'm going to tweet out right now. We are on the air. We are SpartanMag live right now. Join us. That's a tweet. Thanks for bearing with me on that. And I'll go over here and I'm going to check some of the questions Rob South came in first, eh? Spartan. I'll go to the Facebook page, SpartanMag.com Facebook. That's a page I need to be doing more on, because I know we've got some Facebookers out there. Just to help spread the word about this nonsense we got going over here at SpartanMag.com. I'm just going to copy and paste what I already just posted. That's not going to work. Anyway, Rob South's here. MJ is in the starting lineup. Peyton Thorne better be the starter, MJ is saying. MJ's not shy about coming in and just being a bull in the china shop and talking about what he wants to see. I'll tell you what, Peyton Thorne looked pretty good in that spring scrimmage. But when I went back and looked at the stats were not so great for Thorne. They were just kind of okay. But he got the first crack at it. We are on air right now via Spartan Mag Live. Join us here. Link. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. MJ coming in, says Peyton Thorne better be the starter. Brad Fashenko, I think Brad is also coming out. Yep, checking in from Austin, Texas. Brad is also keeping Austin weird for us, which is important. Appreciate that. Noah says, evening, folks. All right, Noah, good luck with the arc. Angelo Gross, Harold Joyner enthusiast, he's here. So we got MJ, he's at the wing, of course. Rob South running to the point. Fashenko in the middle in place of Old Tuck. Got Noah, shooting guard. Angelo Gross enthusiast is a wing. We're going 4 out, 1 in. 4 out, 1 in. There's no power forward. We're going 4 around 1. 4 out, 1 in. One man in the middle. He'll be running the high post a little bit. Who did I say that was? Fashenko? And you got south of the point, even though we're a little bit positionless here. MJ, Noah, Angelo Gross enthusiast on the perimeter. 4 out and 1 in. Brad Who says, let's get after it. Kenneth Roberts says, how you doing, Comp? How was your 4th? 4th of July. Nothing like the 4th of July. July. That's how George Kelly used to say it, right? July. It was great, man. In the United States of America again for the 4th of July. I spent a string of years in which I was routinely north of the border in Canada for the 4th of July for various reasons. And that kind of gave me a nervous tick a little bit. Eventually started a new little bit of tradition. Usually snooping around Mackinac Island around July 4th. I'm not going to lie to you about that. This time, the 4th, where were we? We were up around Torch Lake, kind of in the middle of all that nonsense a little bit this year. Still can't get into Canada. I think we can get into Canada now, but it's tricky. We're going to start trying that here pretty soon, but we got baseball to do on weekends coming up this weekend and some others. Jacob Terry says, go green. MG says, athletes finally making the sauce. MJ says, 8-4 this year, go green. Thoughts? 8-4, huh? 8-4. 8-4. Let me see, what's Michigan State's schedule? Should know it by heart, right? And sorry about rustling through papers here. This is poor. This is poor. I apologize. Well, they play Northwestern at Northwestern. See, usually, that's a tough one. First game of the year at Northwestern, right? Night games, a Friday night. It's tough because Michigan State beat Northwestern last year. Northwestern had a very good year, but Northwestern is going to be at home looking to make a statement in that first game. I don't want to say revenge because it's not a hateful motivation. But last year, Michigan State had a little bit of a sneak-up factor against Northwestern, played really well, got the victory against the Wildcats. I know the Big Ten says, hey, we need a conference game on Friday night, opening weekend, for the inventory, for the conference inventory. Notice they'll never have Michigan play on a Friday night to open the season. I don't know, maybe the new commissioner, maybe Warren, maybe he'll call BS on all that crap and say, no, yeah, you're playing a Friday night against somebody. Shut up. You're playing on a Friday night at Minnesota. Go. Maybe that'll happen one of these days. I don't know. Anyway, I kind of, as much as my friend Tim Stout hates this, I like the idea of starting the season on that Friday night, Labor Day night. People are excited, right? Some people like to get back to campus. Friday doesn't wreck your whole, it doesn't take up your whole Labor Day weekend. play a MAC warm-up team in there or a Youngstown State, right? So you will sell tickets for that because it's the opener and people are jonesing for some college football. And Friday, Labor Day weekend, nice little tradition. But now, Big Ten Network says, no, you're going to be on the road on a Friday night. Okay. So now it's an inconvenience kind of. It's Friday night, it's Labor Day weekend. But the problem is it's a losable game. I think ideally you want to play a game you're supposed to win and, work out some kinks, make some mistakes, overcome them, work on that for week 2 against a better opponent. Maybe week 3, a better opponent. But when you have a conference game, week number 1, it's exciting, but it can really derail the hopes and dreams of a season in one game. That might be a little harsh, but you've got Michigan State, you got Northwestern. Somebody's going home a loser, and one fan base in the Big Ten is going to be less enthusiastic about college football. Maybe not everybody, but so I don't think that's good business for either side. But they've got the game there. They'll be able to sell commercials for a football game on a Friday night. That gives them inventory. They will have a little better ratings than if it were Minnesota against Buffalo. I'm just talking for the good of each program, Northwestern and Michigan State. Play that one in week 2 and let Michigan State play Youngstown State in week 1. Anyway, so my man MJ saying 8-4. So you think of the 4 losses at Miami. Come on. Miami's got, 18 starters coming back, like 80% of their offense, plus De'Aaron King. They've had some impact transfers like Michigan State has. I'm not saying Miami's great, but for Michigan State to go down there and win that game, I need to see it to believe it. The losses at Miami, at Ohio State. Who else? All right, so there's not like any no doubt losses here. I mean, Michigan State played pretty well against Penn State. Penn State was down last year. Michigan State played well against Penn State for a while, but that game was a null set also because Michigan State had a shoe problem that day. I asked Mel Tucker about it, and he didn't go into specifics, because he doesn't like to make excuses. But if you go back and watch that game, there were 10 or 15 plays where a defensive player for Michigan State was trying to take on a block and just got put on a blocking sled because his shoes failed. Or a receiver goes out and makes a cut, slips, falls, ball comes incomplete. Or a running back makes a cut, falls. I asked some insiders of the program about that a little bit after that game, and they were talking something about the molded shoes. I'm not sure what it was, but that was, I hate to say it, you play 7-game season, and I'm not, one game, throw it out. I'm throwing that one out. I know it was the same for Penn State, but I don't know. I heard some stuff about that too. The way the surface, you can dial that thing in a little bit differently. And yes, through history, when a team doesn't have the right shoe, you go to the sideline and they adjust the cleats. We've heard about that, but I don't think that shoe is adjustable. I don't know. Anyway, go back and watch that game if you got the stomach for it. Go on YouTube and watch Michigan State's shoes fail in that game. Anyway, Penn State was not great last year, so that's not an automatic loss. Playing them at Spartan Stadium Thanksgiving weekend on the 27th. Have no idea what Penn State and Michigan State's going to look like that many months from now, but it's not like you're playing, at the 85 Bears or something. Do the 85 Bears get mentioned too often as the example of insurmountable or some great defense? Not too often? Okay, we'll keep using them then. I mean, but where do you find 8 wins? Youngstown, Nebraska at home. I have no idea what Michigan State's going to look like, much less Nebraska. Western Kentucky, 3 wins. At Rutgers, 4 wins. Michigan, 5 wins. At Purdue, 6 wins. Maryland at home, 7 wins. Penn State at home, 8 wins. At Indiana, all right, who knows? 8 wins. MJ, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not betting on it, but again, it's not like they're playing, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Clemson back to back to back. Hey, let's get back to the mailbag here. Put on my readers, showing my age. I'm not going to quote Rod Stewart on that. Don't want to gross anyone out. Because that don't worry me none. Because I show. Not going to say it. Not going to say it. All right. Question number 4, GBO42. What is your prediction for what the 2022 basketball recruiting class will look like. Thanks. Oh, by the way, I want to rewind a little bit about, people were asking about what things look like in terms of off-season progress. I'll pause, and I mentioned this on the final forum message board at SpartanMag.com. Improved player, according to the players right now, as of now. Far and away, the most improved player, A.J. Hogard. And you might say, well, that makes sense because he had the most improvement to do. True. But I'm hearing he's slimmed down, quickened up, shooting well. And anyone that thought that he would just be like an afterthought in the playing group, not so fast, my friend. I'll have to see it with my own eyes, which I have not seen, but I'm hearing positive things about him. Give us a thumbs up here for the show, Spartan Mag Live. Subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com, become a subscriber. You won't regret it. Also hearing Max Christie is looking like the real deal as advertised. Julius Marble, bigger, stronger, banging. Marcus Bingham, put on good weight. Heard from a good source, would expect Marcus Bingham to be among the top 3 or 4 scorers on the team. How you like that? All right. What is my prediction for the 2022 Michigan State basketball recruiting class? That one's a little bit all over the map. I mean, Michigan State is showing interest on, 5 or 6 definite guys. Jaden Shute, guard, Yorkville, Illinois. Official visit to Michigan State. I think official visit to Illinois also. Duke just offered. Now, in the past, if Duke had offered a Chicagoland guy like Jaden Shute, it would have been all over. But this is the next Duke with Mike Krzyzewski being gone. So, Michigan State's right there. Been doing a good job with him. With Duke offering, I assume he's going to go down there and visit. And the new coach, I can't think of his name. He was point guard for the national championship team. I saw him play in high school. Went out to Illinois, watched him because Michigan State recruited him. Reminded me of a little bit of a, what's his name? Reminded me of a more polished Dane Fife type of guy as a player. Turned out to be really good at Duke. Anyway, he's a Chicagoland guy, so he's going to try to get in on Jaden Shute, of course. And that could become a problem for Michigan State. But Shute is a guy with a good vertical, 6'5", 6'4.5", good elevation on his jumper, quick release on his jumper, big-time shooter. So I think State's probably the leader there, but got work to do. Isaac Trout, my read was Virginia was the team to beat for him. 6'9", stretch 4, Grand Island, Nebraska. Michigan State, Virginia, Huskers are in there. Creighton is in there. I was thinking Virginia, but the Michigan State people thought the visit went well. Michigan State feels like they're in good shape with some of these guys, just need to finish. Michigan State getting in more with Ty Rodgers. We talked about that at the Final Forum. Graham Blank, kid, tough kid, about 6'6", 6'7", banger, great toughness, good rebounder, good defender. Brandon Dawson type of guy, a little bit, maybe a little shorter, a little better with the ball. Not a great shooter, neither was Brandon Dawson. Michigan State likes him. Michigan State trying to make up for lost ground there because they kind of took the foot off the pedal with him for a while, trying to get back in with him. He's got an official visit set with Michigan State coming up in the future. Wolverines are in on him. Purdue's in on him. UConn is in on him. A little bit of a project there in terms of the shooting, but if he were a good shooter, he'd be a national top 50 type of guy. Trey Holloman, the guard out of Minneapolis, visited Michigan State, liked it, really liked it. He's a little bit hard to read because he likes everything. I think he visited Marquette too. Let me check my messages. Sent a message out to him a little while ago. I don't know if he got back to me or not. Let's see. I got something here. No, I got it from Trey Holloman right here. He says, only Michigan State and Marquette. Those are the 2 schools that he visited during the month of June. He's also a football recruit. The Huskers are after him hard for football. Illinois had been in on him a little bit. Let's see. Oklahoma had started to try to get in on Jaden Shute too, with Porter Moser being there. So Michigan State feels good about Holloman, but it's hard to say. Holloman's a good, strong guy, football player, really good creator, improving his jump shot. Not like a total triple threat guy that can do it all to you, but toughness. Izzo type of guys. Holloman's an Izzo type of guy. Rogers is too. Trout with that stretch four, Izzo likes stretch fours. Michigan State's keeping an eye on Trayvon Lewis out of Ferndale. I think he's like 6'6", like a wing with a real long wingspan. Needs to show more toughness. Michigan State looking at him, trying to make decisions on him. And, those are the guys that Michigan State's been following around. There might be a couple others on the periphery, but those are the guys they're focusing in on. And they're also, I think they're planning to always keep that portal in mind for one or two guys a year. So if you've got 4 scholarship slots, I don't know if Michigan State goes ahead and fills all 4 every year. I think you leave one open. And it's a strange year also because you don't know about Marcus Bingham. He might have a good year, probably will, but he can come back another year. Gabe Brown can come back another year. That would make them older seniors, although Marcus Bingham is a young junior. So you got to keep roster room for those guys. So it's hard to read. It's difficult to read right now. It's a little more difficult than in past years, but those guys are the ones that Michigan State has been zeroing in on. Solo Beer Guy in Westland, Michigan says, how many guys currently committed to Michigan State would you say are 4-star talents or have a good chance of getting there during their senior year? He says it seems like currently, based on what you have said of this group, Houser, Willy, Nickel, Spencer, and Brocious. But I may have misread your comments on these guys. Also, you said Braden Miller was pretty comparable to Ryan Baer as a prospect. Does that mean you would consider him a 4-star talent as well? Yeah. Now, Ryan Baer, I said, was a 4-star talent before he got his 4th star. And Braden Miller is right there. Braden Miller, kid out of Colorado. Another big square body guy that checks the boxes, man. Strong, mobile. Mechanics are good. And Braden Miller would be the best offensive lineman in the state of Michigan if he were in Michigan this year. That's not counting Deion Walker, because most people count Deion Walker as defensive tackle. I think Deion Walker out of Cass Tech is an excellent offensive line prospect as well if he plays that position in college. But Deion Walker, if you think of him as a defensive tackle, I think Braden Miller would be the best offensive lineman in the state of Michigan this year. Prospect. Now, there might be some slim 6'5" guy out of Traverse City that ends up at Central Michigan that right now looks okay. And then, 4 years from now, after all the maturity and backfilling takes place, ends up being a better pro prospect. You can put that in the bank. There's going to be some MAC offensive linemen 5 years from now that'll get drafted that right now are like 2-star, slim, fast guys that are projects. But there's 40 of those guys, and trying to pick which 1 or 2 out of those 40 is going to be that guy is really hard, because you're probably going to get fired if you pick the other 38. All right? Braden Miller, I like him. I think he looks good. Now, I do think Michigan State on the offensive line, I think they're recruiting a higher grade of offensive line prospect right now than we saw in the tail end of the D'Antonio era. I just think they're bigger guys, more athletic, stronger, and they've gone nationwide to go after these guys. And I think they've evaluated well. I think they've gotten some high-value guys. Miller, underrated 3-star. They got in on Baer when he was an underrated 3-star. Brocious, underrated 3-star from Arizona. The Leto kid, asterisk. Leto, the kid from Grand Haven, in-state guy, is looking good. But I think I'd put Braden Miller a notch ahead of him. But Leto is a guy that was thin, that's putting on good weight, who's athletic, dunking basketballs, and his slope of improvement is really interesting. So right now I'd have Braden right there. It doesn't matter. They're all going to be teammates. But here's the deal. I've always said this about offensive linemen. You need to recruit about 15 of them in order to get 7 good ones, because some of those guys, their shoulder's going to give out. They're going to have to retire, or the clavicle's going to give out. Like Zach Huter was a great athlete. Just the skeletal system doesn't stay together on it with a lot of these guys. Skylar Schaffner, David Barrett. I'm not sure what he would have become anyway, but Cole Chewins, Dennis Finley, Jordan Reed. Some of those guys were good. Some of those guys were really good. But as a position group, there's more injury attrition at offensive line than anywhere else. So you don't just recruit 5 and those are your 5. You got to recruit 15 and expect 6 of them. A coach would never say this. That's just my observation. You got to recruit that many, 5 every year. And there's going to be some attrition. So these guys have ability, but just based on what I just said, numbers-wise, one or two of them could run into some bumps in the road there. So I'm saying that these guys are good, but that doesn't guarantee they're going to be, 4-year starters in college or anything. These guys help the talent pool, and they're better than some of the guys Michigan State was bringing in past years. I think they look like offensive linemen. They look the part, and this staff is big on size and what someone's supposed to look like. Mel Tucker said that when he was hired. It's the Nick Saban approach, and you can say that. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, that sounds great. Of course, you want 6'5" offensive linemen. Well, good luck finding 6'5" offensive linemen that can move. Well, they found that guy. They found guys that fit that. Because you can say you want guys that are a certain size that move a certain way, but there's a finite number of those type of resources. And oh, by the way, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, they're looking for those same type of guys too. And it's not like you can just add water and just create one. But, Michigan State, they go after some 4-star guys nationwide. They don't get all of them, but they go after them. They get one or two, Chuck Brantley, some of these guys. Katin Houser could end up being a 4-star. But they also stay close to home. And if they like a guy close to home like Leto out of Grand Haven, boom, they like that guy too. So it's a combination of going after some 4-stars coast to coast, doing their evaluation homework early and getting after it, relationship, hustling in that end, and also doing the evaluation close to home. That being said, no coaching staff is going to be 100% accurate on evaluations. And they looked at guys. They looked at McIntosh, the wide receiver out of Holt that committed to Wisconsin. I like that guy. 6'4.5", runs well. They looked at him, decided not to go after him. Could have had him. Grew up a Michigan State fan. He's going to go to Badgerland. Good for him. I mean, Wisconsin's a great place, right? But you only have so many scholarship slots, and Michigan State's in on some good wide receivers. They got Terrell Henry out of Roseville. He's grown a little bit, looked pretty good at the Sound Mind camp, made a real good catch over there at that thing. I know it's just a T-shirt camp, but I happen to have film of that and tweeted that out a few weeks ago. And then they probably got one more slot for a wide receiver at this point. And they got the other kid out of Florida a couple weeks ago. We'll have to wait and see. That'll be interesting to evaluate in the years to come. So, anyway, question number 6. From MSU Spartan 777 out of New Hudson, Michigan. He says, how do you like our chances with the following recruits in terms of the possibly providing a confidence percentage of a commitment? That's kind of what I do. I do confidence meter. Got a confidence meter on where I think they're headed. I don't like do future casts or any of that stuff because if you do that, it just automatically clicks up to 100%. I don't know. Occasionally there's 100% that happens when you find out ahead of time, but sometimes recruits tell you what's going to happen and ask you not to tell anybody, and then you go put a future cast in. Are you kind of going back on your promise there? I don't know. I don't do that. He asks about Alex Van Sumeren, 4-star defensive tackle out of Essexville Garber, quickness, rotund individual, great motor. I'm going to put that one at more than 59%. He's taking some visits. Things are looking pretty favorable. His brother's here as a transfer from Michigan. His brother likes it so far. So I think that looks favorable right now. So 59% upward. Chase Carter, the lineman out of Minneapolis. I've got that one at 59% also. Iowa's in there a little bit. Ryan Baer, offensive lineman from Ohio. It's Michigan State versus Kentucky for him. He's from the Cleveland area. I got Michigan State at 51%. I would have had it at about 59% after his visit. Then Kentucky made a surge, and then Michigan State countered it a little bit. And, coin flip. Talked to his dad a little bit. Haven't talked to his dad since I went on vacation, but it was looking like a tough decision at the time. And he said no decision was coming. He said it would be a minute for a decision. And these days when people say a minute, they mean like it's going to be a minute. So that I took that to mean 50-50, but I'll talk it up to 51%. Dylan Tatum, defensive back out of West Bloomfield. I got that about 40%. I think he likes Michigan State, but seeing him turn down Michigan to go to Michigan State, I'll have to see it to believe it. A lot of the Michigan media, Wolverine media, are talking about, man, he really likes Michigan State. Yeah, he does. And he gave Michigan State a real good close look, but I'll believe it when I see it. 40%. Katron Allen, the running back from IMG out of Florida. He visited Michigan State a couple weeks ago. Talking to my sources, They felt like he had a good visit, but they say he is hard to read and his family's hard to read. It's a guy that took official visits to Michigan State, Florida, Georgia, Penn State. Those are some heavyweights. He left one open. So that one could go into the fall with one more visit later. Michigan State likes him a lot. Michigan State does not need a running back. They're not going to take a running back unless it's someone like Katron Allen, 4-star, difference maker type of running back. So I'm going to put the confidence meter on that one. I mean, 20%? Because what do you think the confidence meter would be for Florida? What do you think it would be for Georgia? What do you think it would be for Penn State? I know some of those schools have had other running backs commit, but if I said 33, that would make them the favorite, possibly. No, I don't think they're the favorite. 20%, something like that. Field might be 20%. It might be Michigan State 15%, and then Florida, Georgia, Penn State a little bit above that on each of those, and then Field, something like that. I don't know, 20%. He says, what are your thoughts on the addition of Thomas Wilcher, and do you think his contract could possibly include a clause in which he would not leave to take a position at the University of Michigan within a year or so following a departure? I don't know about the contract. That's interesting. I've not heard anything about that. I wonder if they explored that. I wonder if he would agree to that. I don't know. I don't know that Mel Tucker would ask for that. In some ways, Mel Tucker is a hard-nosed, no-nonsense, this is the way we're going to do it, businessman, a la Nick Saban. On the other hand, he is cognizant of the assistant coach profession, and he's not going to want to shackle anybody. So I'm not sure where that one would go. Interesting question, though. What do I think about it? I think he's well respected, and I think that'll help as they, when they play host to recruits. He'll be a guy shaking some hands and making an impact. I spoke with Jalen Thompson. He's a 4-star defensive lineman out of Cass Tech for 2023. And, he was in some ways kind of sad to see Thomas Wilcher go, but in some regards was happy to see him move on in his career. And he says, yeah, he likes Wilcher. He likes Michigan State. It's going to help Michigan State's chances. That's what Jalen Thompson told me. Not in those words specifically. I can find the message here. See what he said. He said, yeah, he thinks it's a good thing for Wilcher and Michigan State. It's hard to see him leave, but it's good to see him take his coaching skill to a higher level. And he can be surrounded by and work with the best of the best. So that's Jalen Thompson. He's 2023. He's going to be a junior in a few months. Kind of a mature outlook on things. But he refers to Michigan State as the best of the best. This summer, Jalen Thompson with Wilcher and some Cass Tech and Detroit people, they went, visited some schools. They visited Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the University of Memphis. And I asked him, with Wilcher going to Michigan State, do you think that will have an impact on his eventual college decision? Does it help Michigan State's chances with him? That was my direct question. He says it's in between. He says, I really haven't been able to talk to many coaches yet. So he's still new in his coaching process. He says, but Wilcher is my guy, and I know they want me there, so I don't know. That's what he said. He's a young guy. I don't like to interview recruits that are sophomores, but he finished his sophomore year, so I've been talking to him a little bit. But that's one guy with pretty mature outlook on things. But he says Wilcher is my guy, so that's a 4-star. Now, by the time he graduates, Michigan State will be eligible to recruit him, having hired Wilcher as a non-field coach. All right, so MSU Paulo, here's a question from Rockford, Michigan. He says, hey, Jim, would love to hear your position group power rankings heading into fall camp. Thanks for all you do. Position power rankings. So he wants me to take Michigan State position by position and rank them. I would, without thinking about it a whole lot. Yeah, the quarterback I think is a solid competition. Russo and Thorne. I think Michigan State's going to get a capable quarterback out of that. Running back, you got Kenneth Walker adding to that. Eli Collins coming back into form, a guy that was on the cusp of being with 1,000-yard rushers, a redshirt freshman. We all know that. Jordan Simmons led them in rushing last year, but he's going to have to really hustle to maintain a spot in the rotation because those two guys are going to be good. Joyner's coming in looking good. Running back, solid. Walker was at what? He rushed for about 800 or 900 at Wake Forest. Collins, a 900 guy. That's, if you just look statistically, if you were looking outside looking in, you look at Walker and however many yards he rushed for, 800, 700, whatever it was at Wake Forest, and Collins being a 900 guy as a freshman, battled COVID last year. You'd look at that and you're like, that's a healthy situation. And it is. Running back, good situation. Quarterback, I like it. Wide receiver, good. Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor. And some positive rumblings about Ricky White. I think there was a Ricky White sighting at workouts the other day. I didn't verify that was him. Sometimes I'm not the best at identifying people in those videos, but everybody was talking about it like it was Ricky White. Who am I to argue about that? I think it was. Things were quiet about Ricky White for a long time. It was quiet for so long that I took that to mean a positive thing. If things are so quiet, that was a good thing for him if you're a Michigan State fan or a Ricky White fan about him staying at Michigan State. If things were not good, we would have heard months ago that he was gone. Didn't happen. Still around. A lot of talent. So wide receiver, I think, looks good. Tight end, shaky. Tyler Hunt, good guy. I like him. He is what he is. He's helpful. Crazy athlete. He's like, I think I'll be a tight end. Lifts weights for a while. Boom, he's a tight end. Dude used to be a punter. Not bad with kickoffs either. Field goals, he can probably do it. I hear he can throw the football like 70 yards right-handed and 60 yards left-handed. Some crazy crap like that. Just like just one of those dudes that can do everything. So, he's a dandy. I'm not saying he's bad, but tight end is not a weakness. I mean, tight end is not a strength for the team. Trenton Gillison, still waiting for him to, have to wait and see with him. Parks Kissinger, Allen, the true freshman, saw him in the scrimmage, 6'4", thin, though, looked like a wide receiver. He needs to add a lot of mass. And if he had so much mass in the summer, how well will he move with it? I think he's more of a down-the-road project. I might be wrong about that, but not sure he's an every down tight end. So tight end is weak still. Offensive line, question mark. It's a disappointment last year. They were the first to admit it. But now, I always get asked about the offensive line. Individually, they've all shown flashes. They've got a lot of individual experience there. Each individual has had good moments. A.J. Arcuri's a good in pass protection. Got to get better as a run blocker. He's got to stay healthy. Early in his career, had health problems. Missed the spring scrimmage for an undisclosed minor injury. But he's there. If you get him for all 12 games. Duplain, like I said earlier, is doing well this summer. Matt Allen had a good winter, good spring, started at center in the spring game over Samac. Whoever wins that battle is going to be capable. Horst has been solid. He started at left tackle in the scrimmage. Does he become a right tackle? I think that's possible. If so, he can move Jarvis inside. Jarvis was honorable mention All Big Ten as a true freshman. He's battled injuries since then. Now he moves inside. Mature guy. If he stays healthy, I got to believe he can be a plus guard. Individually, they've all had their time. They've all had their moments. Now they get a full year with the new strength staff. And you can see with some of the before and after pictures that the program sends out that they're making some progress with a lot of these guys. And I got to believe these offensive linemen, if they stay healthy, are going to be the best version of themselves that we've seen individually. Now, collectively, can they get their crap together? Kapilovic is good, man. He's a good coach, and he can get it done if those pieces are good. The new nutrition system is going to help a lot of these guys. So I think there's a chance the offensive line could get all taped together and be good, but I need to see it to believe it. I'm not saying it's certain. So in this power ranking, I'm not sure where I'd put them. Defensive line, you got Beasley and Panashuk and Drew Jordan on the outside now. Inside, Jalen Hunt's good. Mallory, and Barrow looked really good in the spring scrimmage. He's going to be an impact guy. Slade is a proven quality guy. D-line is good, solid. They don't have that like scary edge rushing defensive end guy, but the rest of it, those all 4 positions, you're not going to get pushed off the line of scrimmage with any like individual weakness. I said that about Drew Jordan. He needs to show he can withstand and play against a double team block. He's got the size to do it. If he can't do it, I mean, Panishuk will be on there. He was slowed by COVID last year. Panishuk, I think, has a chance to have a good year. Beasley just keeps getting better. D-line is good. Not dominant, but plus defensive tackles and good, solid, functional defensive ends without, the scary pass rusher. So D-line is kind of okay. Linebacker, question mark, Harvey, as he learns more, I think he's going to be better and more consistent. We talked about that with him. We mentioned it on the message board, and I asked Noah Harvey about it around spring practice. There was a big difference if you watched him and you knew the difference in the schemes, whether the defensive front was 1 gapping or 2 gapping. When they were 2 gapping, Noah Harvey was hesitant. I mean, 2 gapping is a read-react type of thing, and the read-react for him was not good. Some guys can read-react and flow and do great. It's a knack thing. If it's 1 gapping, you just pull the pin and go, and that's what they used to do more often than not in the old D'Antonio system. That's what he was comfortable with. And if you saw Noah Harvey make a nice play, 99% of the time it was going to be 1 gapping. And if you saw him like a stutter step and react late, they were 2 gapping. I asked him about that, and he said, yeah, I'm surprised that you noticed that. He feels better about knowing the system more. So there's a chance you might see a better Noah Harvey this year, and he better be a better Noah Harvey because Quavarius Crouch is right there. Ben Van Sumeren is in there. Chase Klein's around. He's made some noise here and there. Maybe he's a 3rd down guy. Maybe he's capable of playing. He can give him some depth. Tank Brown, I'm not sure what to expect from him. The transfer from Minnesota, a lot of talent. I don't know. So where do you put the linebackers? With Crouch and Harvey, could be a pretty good tandem. Defensive backs, Kalen Gervin is been a mixed bag. We all know that. Xavier Henderson is sturdy, solid at safety. Angelo Gross moving back to safety is interesting. Shorter stature, but physical. That's interesting back there. I assume he's going to be okay there and gives you a safety that can maybe cover better than your garden variety safety. Can he come in and be a box safety? Because in the 4-2-5, you need a box safety. That's when a safety comes in and plays in the box and basically plays like a linebacker against certain formations and personnel groups. And usually you rotate that guy because you don't want it to be the same safety down in and down out because you're going to wear down. So can Gross come in there and do that? I'll have to wait and see on that a little bit. They'll get some sub help from the dude from Greenville College. What was that guy? South Carolina guy? Kendall Brooks. Looked okay in the spring. So at the corners, can Gervin, hang on to his job over Ronald Williams and Chester Kimbrough? I'm assuming Williams and Kimbrough are the 2 top guys for that role. Marquis Lowry coming in from Louisville. Kari Crump coming in from Arizona. Those guys didn't play as much as Kimbrough at Florida. Ronald Williams was a big-time JUCO when he went to Alabama, and he looks like an Alabama guy. Then he got Charles Brantley, who I think is the best recruit in the class, a corner from Venice, Florida, that can hit, run, and turn his hips and do everything. He's 4-star legit. So how would I rank those position groups? I have no idea, man. DBs, I'm going to rank lower because there's those question marks. Linebackers, there's question. Offensive line, there's question. D-line, you kind of know what you're going to get. I would put them up a little higher with the ceiling being, I don't know. Running back is good. Wide receiver. Man, I'm running back and wide receiver seems about equal, right? D-line about equal. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm going to have to think about that more. I just went over all of those guys. You can guys tell me what you think. What's your top 2 position groups and what's your bottom 2? Bottom 2, one of them is going to be tight end, right? I don't have a good answer for that. Let's go back over here. I'm going to check the chat area. I never opened the phone lines. It's 10:30 already. It's late. I'm not going to open the phone lines this week. Sorry about that. We're going to go through the chat area. Then I'll come back and finish up with the mailbag, and I'll try to go lightning round with the mailbag because I kind of went essay answer on some of those. Went a little long. It's 10:25 Eastern time. I appreciate those of you that are still hanging with us. Hey, we got pretty good numbers in the right now. People eager for some college football. I appreciate that. Ben Chai says shorts. That's what he's drinking tonight. Local night for him. Appreciate that for sure. MJ says, wow. Not sure who says wow about. Hayden Vischer says, howdy. MSU number one fan says, does Morgan come back as wide receiver? Morgan. I need a first name with that. Morgan. I'm going to have to look this up. Who the heck is Morgan? Let me see here. If it's a common name, I know some of you guys already are posting right now who Morgan is, but there's like a 40-second delay on that. I won't see it right away. I don't know who Morgan is. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Matt Tillotson says, if the questioner doesn't list their town, you should make one up, like Ernie Harwell used to, when he'd randomly assign a town to a fan who caught a foul ball. Matt Tillotson with a great suggestion. I'm going to do that. I will do that. Great suggestion. MJ says Peyton for Heisman. Jacob Terry says 8-4 is quite optimistic, but I guess not completely out of the realm of possibility if things go very well. I don't disagree. Gordon Tanona says, Comp, I saw Rachel Dahlgren podcast with Mel Tucker. Rachel needs to be your co-host. Great personality. Gordon also had another compliment for Audrey Dahlgren, but I'm not going to repeat it. I agree. And it was nice on your part, but I'm just not going to repeat it. No problem, Gordon. But yeah, Audrey does a great job with the podcast, and she's a pro. Does a good job. She hustles too. Goes to the events, covers them from the high schools to the colleges. Solid. She's got a lot of respect around the press room, no question. I did not hear that podcast though, and I need to check it out. Nate Vanderkamp says, I think you said Dobbs should probably be a 3-star. Thank you. I did say Dobbs should be a 3-star. He's a 4-star guy. Or was there was another one too, wasn't there? Dobbs. It was a Detroit kid. Gosh, I don't know. Old Tuck is tardy. Old Tuck says, I got a few drinks under my belt at Round Rock Express and became disoriented at the Round Rock Express game. I don't know what Round Rock Express is. Maybe that's minor league baseball. But Old Tuck became disoriented. I'm glad he found his way home. But that's just the latest example of Old Tuck and his buddies keeping Austin weird. Appreciate that. We support that. Old Tuck says, also offended a group of Dell coworkers. Good for you. Angelo Gross, Harold Joyner enthusiast, says Javon Grigsby. Yeah, that was the guy from Louisiana. I liked him too. I thought he was 4-star talent. Jacob Terry says, Stephen Johnson is selling weed now. I probably should not have read that. Old Tuck with some profanity. Brad Fashenko says, Old Tuck, have you been to Q2 Stadium yet? Jacob Terry says, could we use Kenneth Walker and Joyner like Chubb and Kareem Hunt combo? Yeah, I think there's a good chance of a two-headed monster running back situation. It's going to be 2.5. It's hard to play 3. That's always been the case. Unless you count like 1978 Alabama Crimson Tide back in the Wishbone days. Jason Kilp says, Comp's back. Thanks, Jason. And thanks to you for helping man the fort and all the work you've done over the years and continue to do. We're excited about that. Blake Wagner says, likely to beat the Wolverines. I think it's good for Michigan State that game is late in the year because by the time that game is played, I think there's a solid chance Harbaugh will have lost the team again. He lost the team last year, lost them. And, we'll see. As a program, Michigan has a history of coming back strong when you think they're struggling. But they weren't just struggling. They were dead last year. So, I think Michigan State. I give Michigan State a solid chance to beat Michigan again this year. Spartan MD says, ladies and gentlemen, and Dream Team and gentlemen. Showing my age there again. Kana 1005 says, Comp, my man. No, you the man. Big German says, Jim, can you make a 30 to 60 second segment an opening segment with a fight song and some famous clips of past Spartan football teams? You know, when we used to have like our very first podcast, when we first started it years ago, like when podcasts were first coming out, we had an intro like that. It was an audio intro, and it ended with the Paul Ettinger field goal against Florida. It tells you how long ago that was. Because since then, you've had, trouble with the snap. You've had, that was even, I think that was like, it's like 2001. So, yeah, we could do that. Some of that stuff is copyright protected. We could. When we do this live, having an intro is a little tricky. I don't know. I could go back and put it in at the beginning after we record it live, but I'm not sure. But thanks for asking that. Brad Fashenko says, Mark Staten, how did Coach D keep him around so long? Hayden Vischer says, Noah Davis. Yes, thanks. Berghorst is a project too. You're right, Nate. Berghorst is a project, getting some work at defensive end, moved to defensive end last year, played some tight end, got on the field a little bit. But you're right. I forgot about him. I should have mentioned him also. And I wonder about him. Is he going to stick with football? I mean, all indications are right now that he is. And I'm not really sure how he did this spring. I'll have to look that up. I don't remember hearing much about him this spring in baseball. Note to self on that one. All right. Gordon Tonona says, or Hayden Vischer says, cannot hurt being the son of a Stanford tight end either. Really like nickel as well. Gordon Tonona says, the cornerback from Tennessee is good. Great punt returner. Talking about Shannon Blair. Yeah, so they have, I forgot. With Shannon Blair, Michigan State offered him. And not a lot of schools came in on him hard after that. And I forgot, he's mentioned as an athlete by Rivals.com. Other schools have looked at him as a wide receiver. I did not include him as one of the corner commitments when I wrote that Ade Willy story. I can't lie to you, he slipped my mind a little bit. But I think Willy and the kid from Georgia are bigger, more, that Chris L. Rucker type corner. Blair, maybe a Christian Jackson type of guy. Punt returner, I don't know. Old Tuck says, Harbaugh either experienced things or enabled, period. Old Tuck with just throwing things out there. Angelo Gross, Harold Young Enthusiast says, Comp, how do you feel about Michigan State record in 2021? ESPN FPI has MSU at 6-6, and I think that is reasonable. I think that's reasonable also, and I just went over the schedule a minute ago, and 6-6 is reasonable. So if you're 6-6, you are like a turnover or missed field goal away from being 4-8 or 8-4. So I think all that's possible. Hayden Roberts says, appreciate you, Comp. Go green, have a drink, and unwind. Or Sky Mint. Dane McBride says, did you go to Shorts Brewery? No, I did not. Kana 1005 says, I love the Friday night game. You can go to the game and then get a whole day of college football from the couch the next day. I agree with that. Cameron Trigg says, what players is Tom Izzo recruiting the hardest for 2022? The shooter out of Illinois, and Isaac Trout, recruiting those guys hard. Recruiting Trey Holloman, the point guard, hard also. So I think those three, and they're trying to make up lost ground on Rodgers. Izzo, I think, saw Rodgers this summer and really decided he really likes that guy because he's an Izzo type of guy. Brad Fashenko says, Jim Morrissey, former Spartan linebacker on the 85 Bears. Cameron Trigg says, what are the chances with Tatum, Van Summer, and Winfield and Katron Allen? I went over that a moment ago. Thanks for asking. Keith Tunstall says, well, it's about time. Jesse Adams says, this is Jesse from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. He says, I know Mel and Jay Johnson love their tight ends, but it seems like we are very young, inexperienced at that position, but we are very deep, talented at wide receiver. Could we spread it out? That's a good question. Jay Johnson loves the tight end. So does Tucker. You're exactly right. They spread it out last year, 3 receivers, 4 receivers here and there. But they're still going to want to utilize their tight ends. They're going to put pressure on Gillison to become a tight end that they want a tight end to be. And Tyler Hunt can function. So it's not like they're going to go 2 tight ends and run it that way 90% of the plays. But it'll probably continue to be what it was last year with the combination of both. They'll use a tight end here and there. They'll go 3 receivers here and there. 4 receivers once in a while. So would they be inclined to do it more? I don't think so. I think it'll be similar to last year. And some of those guys are pretty capable. Some of those guys are not exactly what they're going to want to have at those positions in the near future. Nathan Winter says, "Hey, Jim, love all the work you do. Don't really have any question, but I'll hang up and listen." Thanks, Nathan. Jesse Adams says, more on the offense. What are your thoughts on that? Plus, did you see Ricky White is working out with the team? Yeah, I mentioned that a minute ago. CTO says, "Comp, the GOAT." Well, thank you, CTO. I'll take that as a compliment. The GOAT means good things these days. Back in my day, GOAT was the guy you blamed. You blamed things on back in my day. Now the GOAT, of course, is greatest of all times. And greatest of all times is an old phrase popularized by the great Muhammad Ali. A lot of people don't realize that when they call people the GOAT, it's an Ali phrase. Because no one would... When Ali called himself the greatest of all time, and he didn't say time, he said times, which put his own personal stamp on it. Greatest of all times. It's not 4 words that were commonly linked together, but now they are. George Page says, "I'm headed Northwestern for the first game. What are your thoughts on the opening game against the Wildcats?" I didn't see the Northwestern spring game. I've not studied them yet. I do think it's hard to beat a good team and a good program twice in a row like that, especially when they're really looking for you. Again, it's not a hateful revenge situation, but just glancing over it, they will get 3 offensive players returning. Hunter Johnson, he was just really bad a couple of years ago when he tried quarterback. They got Ryan Holinsky coming in. That's the guy from South Carolina, right? Yeah, they graduated a lot of guys. They got Bergen still as a walk-on. His dad played at Michigan State, was on that Rose Bowl era team. Spivak at defensive tackle. They always get these guys on defense. Man, they only have 7 guys returning. But there'll be some dude, there'll be 2 or 3 dudes you've never heard of that'll all of a sudden be good players. But so just to watch my language, just that quick glance through there, I like their chances a little bit more. It's July. I should have a better working knowledge of each roster in the Big Ten right now than I do at this moment. Been doing a lot of family stuff. But I just talked myself into thinking Michigan State's got a better chance to win that game than I would have thought in terms of intangibles. And I think intangibles will be tough for Michigan State because of what happened last year. But Northwestern lost a lot of talent. And a team that loses that much talent is vulnerable in game 1, as good as Fitzgerald is. All right, Spartion 6686 is 100% Ricky White. He was tagged by Reed. His social profiles have been online again for the first time since February. So Ricky White, they're trotting him back out now so that when we ask about him at Big Ten Media Days, then we'll get an answer. Or we might get a non-answer. But, and the answer will probably be like, yeah, it'll probably be internal, whatever. And that's all that's come of that for now. Adam Perlman says, which 2022 Hoops recruits are you feeling the most confident about? I guess shoot. But the Duke offer makes things a little bit sticky. Shoot, by the way, reminds me of Matt McQuaid a little bit. McQuaid became a lethal shooter as a senior. Prior to that, I'd categorize him as a streak shooter. McQuaid improved his ball handling. I think shoots a better ball handler at the same age. McQuaid was a good athlete, turned himself into quite a good athlete. You remember that dunk against Duke. Shoot, same type of athlete. So that's kind of a visual if you have not seen him play. And I'm not saying Michigan State is like definitely going to get him. The Illini are in there, but I'm not sure Michigan State is leading out and out leading for any of those guys. They feel good about some of those guys, but finishing, let's wait and see. But sometimes Michigan State finishes in basketball recruiting. Sometimes it just happens overnight. You don't see it coming. That could happen. Nathan Winter says, wondering what's the latest with Sean Miller, wide receiver recruit. He says he's ready to commit to a school, but Michigan State might not be ready to take his commitment, waiting for a different wide receiver like Gates Jr., ? Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm not sure it's Gates. Gates has some ability, but just wondering about, how driven he is and how committed he is. Sometimes those guys with the great DNA, the great bloodlines, sometimes they go to a college and then they get driven and then they really blossom. And that could be the deal with Gates. I mean, Gates, I talked to him this spring. He knows he needs to improve his sprint, his speed. And I'm not sure he's like in tip-top shape, but he's got good ability. So in the meantime, Michigan State's got a couple wide receivers right now, and they're going after Winfield, the kid from Texas. Still going after Thomas, the wide receiver from Philly. So Miller, yeah, he wanted to commit, and Michigan State just had to wait. So he's going to end up committing elsewhere, I would imagine. Brian V says, any news about D. Snow? Don't really great much, and how's he doing? Darius Snow, saw him in the spring game. Saw him a little bit last fall, right? He's in the mix. Was he at nickel in the spring? Let me see here. Let me pause and look something up. Yeah, give me some thumbs up, thumbs up. We appreciate those. That helps us get more people coming in here to check out the silliness. Yeah, Snow played nickel for the second string defense in the spring game. So he's behind Dowell there. He's an exuberant guy. He's an up-tempo guy. I got a couple notes on him. He's with the second string defense during one of the plays. It was 1st and 10. Russo was at quarterback. Counter sweep out of the shotgun. Ohanba was pulling. By the way, Ohanba's looking more and more solid. McDonald missed a block. That was Cade McDonald, wide receiver. Missed a block against Snow. Snow defeated that block, assisted the tackle with Hightower. Hightower with good pursuit, lateral movement into the first step. Hightower no longer with the team. Hayward gained 4 yards on that play. So that was one note I had on Snow defeating a tackle to assist, defeating a block to assist on a tackle. Next play went under center. Tight bunch formation, inside zone with Hayward. Michael Fletcher got the tackle on this one. Fletcher defeated a Tyler Hunt block, crossed his face, and assisted with Snow. DeMarzo also may have gotten the assist on that. Anyway, Snow was in on it. Snow, you're playing second string defense at the nickel. It's a short scrimmage. He might have only been on the field for 15 snaps. So you're not going to get like a usual game's worth or even a usual scrimmage worth of grade sheet stuff. But that's what I got on Snow. Nathan Winter says, you might mean Trayvon Morgan, who transferred to Kentucky. Can't remember what I was talking about. BTC Chris Foolin. I don't know what that means. Opinions on Nateote and Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, all kinds of talent as wide receiver coming in from Louisiana. It's going to be some high maintenance with Keon Coleman. But hey, there was high maintenance with Plaxico Burress. Turned out okay. Keon Coleman, going to be some high maintenance. And if things get screwed in properly, could be an impact guy. Mel Tucker is a head coach. Nick Saban was pretty good with some of those guys that needed high maintenance, whether it be kind of the rough cowboy types or the prima donnas. Saban had a way of scaring the cowboy types or the rough house guys and, getting more out of the divas. Keon Coleman's going to be he's got to prove that he's not in the diva category. And if he's not starting and catching 5 passes a game from day one, he's going to need to realize that doesn't mean he needs to, that he needs to be upset about anything. So we'll see. He's excited about being a Spartan right now, but he's got a lot of ability. Just going to take some time, just going to take some maintenance. As John L. Smith used to say, you have to de-recruit guys sometimes. But this day and age with that transfer portal, I don't know. Ade, I thought some of his senior clips looked a little bit better. His junior film, quite honestly, a 4-star guy, I thought he lacked a little bit of speed. The linebacker from Cincinnati Moeller, Shane Jones, I thought he lacked a little bit of speed. Came to college, and he did lack speed. He's a 4-star guy. I think I said I had him as a 3. You might remember that. So, Ade, I saw a couple of clips the senior year. I'm like, okay, that looks a little faster. But looking at his junior film, I was like, man, I don't know about the speed. He's thicker than Shane Jones, but I was kind of getting Shane Jones flashbacks a little bit there. Shane Jones lacked a little speed, but Shane Jones was also a little bit narrow. He wasn't the biggest guy. Ade's got some good speed. So Ade's a 4-star guy, but I would not expect. I'll pump the brakes on him. Got work to do. I understand he's a good kid, hardworking kid, and all that stuff, but don't expect him to be Carl Banks all of a sudden. All right, give him time, whatever. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he'll live up to that. But he didn't volunteer to be a 4-star. Somebody else put that on him, and he's going to be the best he can be, whatever. Just like Shane Jones. Shane Jones was the best he could be. It's not his fault that he was ranked a 4-star. He didn't ask for that. BTC Chris, what does that mean? Fooling? I don't know. I'm not getting that. He says the wide receiver room has a lot of height this year. They lost Morgan, so they lose some height there, but Keon's 6'4". I'd say pretty decent height here and there, but Jaden Reed doesn't have a lot of height. Naylor doesn't have a lot of height. Ricky White's got some. I would disagree. They've had bigger receivers in the past. All right. I just like the stonk, says Burghorst made 6 appearances, 1 save, 1 start, 1.17 ERA, 6 strikeouts, 15 innings pitched. So that strikeout to innings pitched ratio is not great. He started 1, got 1 save. The 1.17 ERA is good. So I don't know what to make of that. I guess from a football standpoint, that's positive that he didn't go out there and just light it up and just be lights out. And I don't know if Burghorst is out playing in a wooden bat league this year or something. I'm not really sure. I should know more about that. That's a good question. I'll be interested to see what becomes of him this August. I'm assuming him to be in the mix somewhere. Now, he moved to defensive end back when Michigan State was really, really thin on defensive ends. Now, all of a sudden, Beasley, that was back before Beasley made a move. Panashuk is solid. That was before Fletcher had gotten on the field. And they didn't have Drew Jordan. So now, does Burghorst move back to tight end? Just thinking it through, that would not shock me. Maybe I'll send him a question or something, see what's going on. Dominic Orino says, Comp, what's your prediction on the number of additional football commits by month's end? By the end of this month, maybe 1. There's some guys, on the fence. But, you're right. When you get to the end of July, sometimes recruits who know where they want to go want to get it over with before camp starts. So maybe Chase Carter's in that category. Van Summeren could be in that category. So I'm going to say 2. Would it be those 2? Possibly. So I'm going to say 2. I'm not officially naming names, though. Nathan Winter says, is Trey Holloman a 2-sport athlete? I know Chase Carter is close friends with him. Holloman could be. He's definitely being recruited for both. Michigan State offered him a scholarship as a football player when Mike Tressel was here. And during his visit, he did meet with Mel Tucker and had football as part of his tour. The Huskers love him for football primarily. Basketball just like on the edge. When I've spoken with him once before his visit and once after his visit, about a month apart, both times he said he had to decide between football and basketball, had not come to a decision yet. Didn't know when he was going to make that decision. I think he likes everything, and like a lot of people, like a lot of us in life, sometimes we just kind of put off hard decisions. I suspect, usually football, basketball guys usually end up opting for basketball. Do they not? I'm thinking he's going to play basketball. And if you play basketball, you can't really play football. Now, if you play football, you can moonlight in basketball, join the team in midseason. It's the only way to do it. So I think he's basketball primarily, which would make it hard for him to play football. Those that do play football and moonlight in basketball are usually role-playing guys that play defense and rebound and just throw length on the glass or throw length here and there. These basketball players, people don't understand how much time they put in and how much work they do, how many shots they get up. It's such a precision sport. And if you don't get enough work in, all of a sudden you become a 20% three-point shooter, like Rocket Watts, for various reasons. Andre Rison was a really, really good basketball player. And he played football, dabbled in basketball, and those of you that remember, his shooting was really bad because he didn't do it much. Judd Heathcote said that Rison would have been an NBA player if he had specialized and only played basketball in college. But think about someone like Eric Snow. I mean, people were always trying to get him to play football in high school. Specialized in basketball, worked on it, and was a 19% free throw shooter as a freshman. Just like a legendarily terrible free throw shooter. Worked on it, became a pretty good free throw shooter, and a decent perimeter shooter by the time he was a senior. And lo and behold, became an NBA player because he did everything else so well. But if that guy hadn't put all that time in, he had to put in all that time just to become a bad shooter. And then a functional shooter. And then surprised everybody after that. Cleaves put in all kinds of time and never became better than a 23% three-point shooter in the NBA. And he worked on it as much as anyone could. So if you take somebody, like Holloman, who's a decent shooter but needs to work on it a lot, I mean, you put him at point guard, and he's football first, and just joins basketball in January, then he'll be an 11% three-point shooter, and that bogs down an offense. If he just plays basketball, he could maybe take an Eric Snow trek toward becoming a good shooter sooner. Point is, if you're not shooting all the time, Matt Trannon was a good age group grassroots basketball player, good high school basketball player. And then specialized in football. Then when he came out and played basketball, you saw that he was a non-threat as a shooter, right? So, point guards playing both ways. Donovan McNabb played a little bit of basketball at Syracuse. And, just kind of an athlete scrambling around, but not a shooter. Could have been, would have been, if he had specialized in basketball or just focused on basketball. You get my point. So two-sport athlete to an extent. Chase Carter once upon a time wanted to be a two-sport athlete and realizes now that basketball is not quite his thing. Although Chase Carter, well, he'll probably bulk up in college in football. But because he's 6'5" or whatever, would probably have a better chance of being a role-playing, space-eating Julius Peppers type of basketball player at the college level. Peppers played for North Carolina in basketball a little bit, right? Just bounced people around, got some rebounds, played some defense. You don't expect that guy to go out and be Robert Horry and shoot threes and stuff. Andrew Backus says, did you see Punter being a portal transfer guy? Do you see Punter being a portal transfer guy? Not sure why you would ever recruit a high school kid when you can grab someone from the portal. That's a great point about punters. Yes. Andrew Backus ahead of the curve. Northwestern lost a lot of guys. You were right. It took me a minute to look it up and refresh my memory on that. But all those great linebackers they had in recent years, and some good defensive ends too. They've had some really good defensive ends and linebackers. Those guys are gone. So we'll see. Doors Fan 91 says, how's Paul K doing? Don't see him that much on the mag anymore. Paul K was just gone for about 12 days doing a family vacation thing. Very interesting one. And he's needed a couple of days to relax, to recover from the vacation. So he says he'll be back ready to work tomorrow. So he'll be back. Brock Rice says, what are the thoughts on the passing of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff? When Orndorff became a good guy and he went at it with Piper, that was the closest thing to Hearns Hagler that I've ever seen in the world of professional wrestling. Ben Chi says, any idea if Kofi Coburn could end up at Michigan State? Not that I'm aware of. Getting back to Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, athletic guy. I think he was a fullback at South Florida. One of the all-time great heels. Could really sell the hatred, which I respected because I always rooted for the bad guys. Back in the 80s, when I was a loudmouth 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old. would go to the wrestling events and root for the bad guys with all my idiot friends who also rooted for the bad guys. And one night at the Flint IMA Arena, there's some other guys that didn't appreciate that and challenged us to fisticuffs in the parking lot. So sometimes it wasn't such a good idea. But when bad guys pulled upsets, like when Harley Race upset Junkyard Dog at WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, that was a great moment. I got a big kick out of that. The 19-year-old me. Orndorff was certainly hateable. And, of course, it was Orndorff and Piper against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in WrestleMania 1, the one that kicked it all off, made it all happen. Then Orndorff later, became a good guy because Piper and those guys turned on him, and Orndorff was an okay, good guy, whatever. But, the pile driver, devastating move, good athlete. In terms of wrestling moves, he was more of a punch and kick guy. Wasn't really didn't have a plethora of suplexes and things like that. Am I talking too much about old school wrestling? I don't watch wrestling anymore. It's not funny anymore. I liked it back then when it was funny. When it had a Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck type of humor to it. You don't see that anymore. I'll watch it once in a while. It doesn't really... I guess maybe I've matured, or maybe I've just become a grumpy old man. I don't know. Andrew Backus says, Burgorst will be a tight end. He knows his future is baseball, so he cannot bulk up enough to be a defensive end. Andrew Backus sounds like he knows something here. Interesting. And you might be right about that, because they need help at tight end. I think it would make sense to get him back at tight end. Moved halfway through, was it 2 years ago? And then last year, I don't think we ever saw Burgorst on the field. He battled an injury, right? Doors fan says, Burgorst pitching in Muskegon this summer. Thanks, Doors fan. I didn't know that. Is there a wooden bat league out there? Must be. Maybe it's not wooden bat. Could Ronald Williams play safety with him being 6'2"? I think he's a pure big corner. I think he's got some freakish ability over there. I think it's a corner. Chase Carter announcing on July 20th. That's coming from Noah Sprunger. Noah's doing... Oh, that's Noah. That was Noah earlier. My bad, Noah. When I said that about the arc, that you've probably heard that your whole life. I apologize about that. I didn't know that was our very own Noah Sprunger. Noah, I'm going to need you to change your name on your YouTube handle there so I know it's you. And thank you for being a part of it. Of everything you do. Man, Noah Sprunger's been a great addition to SpartanMag.com. Jason's doing a great job for a long time. And we appreciate those guys for sure. So Chase Carter deciding in 1 week, Michigan State's got to be the favorite there. Noah, again, I need your last name on there. Noah says Ryan Baer and Van Sumeren do not have dates yet. But both sound like they will announce in July as well. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Ryan Baer would like to get it over with before camp starts. So does Michigan State get all three of those guys? Man, that would be nice for Michigan State. You're talking about a couple of 4-stars. And you need the 4-stars to really crank up the rankings. The recruiting rankings. You need about 7 4-stars to have a top 25 class. So if Katin Houser becomes a 4-star and you get Van Sumeren, you get Ryan Baer. Mangum, I'm not sure about that one. I'm trying to do some research on that. He's out there. Winfield or Kevin Thomas at wide receiver. Dylan Tatum, I don't think it's going to happen. It's a 4-star. The running back from Florida, probably not going to happen. But that's the difference between having a number 35 class and a number 25 class, is getting a Tatum, getting the running back from Florida, getting Mangum. They like Mangum, but I don't know. I got to try to get the latest on that. I've been asking since I got back from vacation, but I think they might be on vacation too. I'm not sure. So there's some other who are some of the other 4-stars that they're in on? There's a couple others, so it's hard to run the table on all of those guys. Can't think right now. Anyway, Nathan Winters says, do you expect the offense to make a huge jump with Russo, Thorne, Walker, and Lombardi? From Lombardi, Hayward from last year. I would certainly hope so. Huge jump. Huge jump. A big jump. I don't know about a huge jump, but I think it'll be a good, solid, respectable offense. I'm not saying it's going to be great. And these days, in order to be good, you kind of have to be great because there's so many teams that put up big numbers and average more than 30 points a game. Huge jump. I don't know about huge jump. And the offense is not going to be great every single week. They might get stymied against Miami and Ohio State and put up good numbers against other opponents. Week in and week out, there'll be improvement there. And if there's not, it won't be good. There'll be a serious problem. Is Katin Houser a potential program changer? Asks BTC Chris Foulin. And seeing Ryan Baer and Ethan Boyd running at you full speed is a scary sight. The offensive line are going to be massive. Ethan Boyd is a guy that's gotten bigger that they're pretty excited about. It's a true freshman coming out of East Lansing. That's a good prospect that they got in on, stock on the rise, and that stock continued to rise. Another big, square-bodied, athletic offensive tackle, underrated. So, yeah, Baer and Boyd, sure. BTC Chris Foulin says, Ade Willy just got update to 4-star status on ESPN. I'm not sure. And 4-star status with different organizations, it's different. Like Rivals.com usually only has, I've not counted it up this year, but usually Rivals.com only has about 260 4-star guys nationwide, whereas other organizations might have 300 or as many as 350. So it's easier to be 4-star at ESPN than it is at Rivals.com or other places. Like when Scout.com was around, maybe not Scout.com, not to name any names, but one way to get more subscribers, if you're considering Rivals.com subscription, or let's say I'll say Scout.com because they don't exist anymore, and you look at the top 25 and you're like, well, Rivals.com has Michigan State with 4 4-star recruits, but Scout.com has Michigan State with 8 4-star recruits. Well, that person might be more apt to subscribe to the one that has 8 4-stars for his favorite team. And then you take everybody's favorite team, all has more 4-stars on one service. It becomes like a marketing ploy a little bit. I think Rivals.com consistently has had fewer 4-stars than others. So someone who's 4-star at ESPN, I don't know. But me personally, I think Ade Willy is a 4-star guy. Was it Dobbs? Can't remember who the other Detroiter was that I was like, this guy, I'm gonna take a minute here and look back at the last couple recruiting classes and try to remember who it was. I'll go back to 2019. Was that the year of Dobbs? Trayvon Morgan, Julian Barnett. Oh, that's someone said that about Barnett. No, I thought Barnett was okay. Dobbs was the 4. Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown was the one that I said I didn't think was a 4-star. And he's done okay. Looked okay at right tackle in the scrimmage. But has some work to do. Dobbs. So I didn't, Spencer Brown, Michigan State got him as a 4-star. Julian Barnett. I didn't dislike Julian Barnett. I thought that he was legit 4-star athlete. I don't remember saying that about him. So, but Spencer Brown was the one I was thinking about most recently. Let me go back to 2017 and look at those. Yeah, that's it. All right, so that's going to do it. Michigan State's chance of Braylon Green. Wing guard out of Ypsilanti, 2023. It's got to be solid. Michigan State's off to a good start with him. I haven't heard lately, though. Anyway, I'm not going to go back and finish up those questions. Maybe I'll get to some of those later. I got some good ones. Were there some good ones? Let me see here. All right. This is where I finished I only got about 5 or 6 questions in. There's some others. I've got a busy schedule the rest of the week. Maybe I could dip back into this and answer these questions in the future, because there's some good ones in here. I'm going to try to do that. But anyway, we are going to, Michael Pluzinski says, keep it up. I think he wants me to keep going, but I got to run. It's 11 o'clock. Noah Sprunger, my man. Put Sprunger on the end of your thing so I never make that mistake again. Love you. Love all you guys. Thanks to the Maggers out there. Thanks for tuning in. Give us some thumbs up. And thanks for being supportive of what we do over at SpartanMag.com. I truly appreciate it. Appreciate the questions. And we'll be back again soon. As we head toward football season, we'll be doing these on a more frequent basis. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Go over to SpartanMag.com. Until next time, my name is Jim Comparoni. Thanks to Kenny Jordan, Jason Killip, Noah Sprunger, Paul Konendijk, and the cast of thousands over at SpartanMag.com. Stay with us. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.